the first tour I did with Kanye was opening for Usher. The bigger picture and the aesthetics of things, and also, mixing up different genres.
Do you remember this?
Wait, Calvin, hold on a second.
Hey there, it's me, Roxy Cottontail. You might know me as a DJ, artist, designer, and New York City party promoter, or from my bunny logo. I'm putting all that on the table and writing about the years that transformed music and the New York City scene. I've interviewed 250 friends and colleagues I admire. I ask all and reveal all. Please join me and the Tales to rediscover the 90s and the Y2K magical landscape of music, art, technology, and streetwear. This is Roxy's Tales. What's your name, your stage persona? Who are you? What do you
do? My name is A-Track, also known as Alain Aklovich. I'm primarily a DJ, but also producer, remixer, record label owner, along with all the sort of other cultural activities that might come with that.
On the next episode of Roxy's Tales, back to back with Big Brother Dave 1 is DJ and producer A-Track. I started booking A-Track in 2005, but we met in 2003 after all his DMC World Championship titles. Half of iconic production and DJ duo Duck Sauce, as well as the Maklovich brothers with Big Brother Dave 1, A-Track and I go down memory lane when he started playing my parties and why I'm considered the architect of his record label Fool's Gold. Enjoy!
Yeah,
Oh, that's what
hip-hop kid from Canada who followed his dream.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
A punk rock kid from Maryland who followed her dream.
Yep, that's it.
And so, how did we meet? Do you remember?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we met when you booked Chromeo. There we go. Wow, that's cute.
So this is not then.
No, that's not then. That's
no, but your brother is the shout out here.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember when you booked Chromeo for a show, and there was a snowstorm that day, I think, right?
Yeah.
But we met at that show, and Dave was already living in New York at that point. I hadn't moved yet, so he was aware of your parties. Was that the show where you had Hollertronics open as well, or was that another show?
Yeah, it was that one.
Okay, so we all met that day, I guess. That's when I met Wes and
the sound check.
At sound check, okay. Yeah, I remember that. And then then there was a snowstorm, so I think like barely anyone came to the show. But yeah.
Do you remember?
But it's okay.
I know. I had good intentions.
Yeah, for sure. And from that point on, I was starting to visit New York more and more. And so we also started doing stuff together. But yeah, it all came from that show.
But so did you know about me before? Or no? Like you just met, like she's the promoter and this is Roxy. Like that was your first.
Yeah, but I think it was more than just she's the promoter. I think I think Dave was probably like, she's the promoter and she also does a bunch of cool stuff in the city. You guys should really meet. Yeah, I'm sure you guys can do stuff together too, like that kind of thing.
This was it.
Wow.
And this was
Kenny Muhammad, the Human Orchestra. Wow.
This is 2003. December of 2003.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And there's a Cat Subs logo on the flyer.
And this is before, I think this is before I had a logo.
Yeah.
Because I'm Oxy Cotton, I think. It's backwards for me, but at the top, it says Oxy Cotton Presents.
Miss Oxy Cotton Presents. And Hollertronics were the headliners and Chromeo were not. That's funny. Yeah.
This was
03. That's crazy. Because when I think of that era and the parties we ended up doing together and everything that we did together, I tend to not think that far back. But that being said, as far as Chromeo's timeline, this makes total sense because in 03, Chromeo was barely nascent. They may have put out one single, if that. So it makes sense that they would
put out Needy Girl with Vice.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah.
And my first record deal that I ever orchestrated. So I was I met Sarah Branilla, who was like one of the early, I would say, people involved in Vice. She's from Canada, she's from Toronto, and she was working in the store. You know, there used to be a Vice clothing store.
Yeah.
And she was also the ad sales for the magazine. And and I met her just by dropping off flyers and became friends. She introduced me to Sarush and Shane and all of those guys.
Yeah.
And I was going to Pratt with Japanther, who were punk rock band that were.
Wait, I just noticed the part of the flyer that says a release party for Diplo's 12-inch. That's crazy.
Oh,
so
wow.
Okay,
yeah. So and so my introduction to Vice was I got them their first like single deal. And then, you know, Sarush introduced me.
You got Japanther their first single deal.
It was like my like, score into the music industry. And then
gotcha.
He introduced.
But do you know that Dave and I know the Vice guys from Montreal from even.
I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I would gather.
Yeah.
Didn't know, but.
So yeah, when Vice was a free paper, like it wasn't printed on a magazine, it was printed like, you know, like one of those weeklies.
Yeah.
In fact, they started as I think they started as Voice of Montreal, and then the legend has it that the Village Voice from New York sued them, even though they were only in Montreal. And then they changed Voice to Vice. And we met them back in like 97 or something, around, which is the year I did the DMCs and when Dave and I started being more active in the hip hop scene. And they were, you know, from the punk rock scene, and like Sarush, Shane, and Gavin was still in the picture back then, were, you know, just a little older than Dave. And they helped us press up our first records back in Montreal. And Dave was the rap, Dave wrote all the rap articles and reviews, and even was officially the rap. He was the rap editor at Vice for years. So when him and P started Chromeo around 2002 or 3, Sarush was already like a close friend of his for like 5-6 years. And that was the connection there.
Yeah. So that is what, that connection to Vice is what led me to hear
about Chromeo.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And for however the stars aligned.
Yeah.
You know, it worked magic. And my friend Bugsy had taken me to see Usher at MSG.
Okay.
A week or 2 or 3 before. I don't know exactly the timeline, but I think it was like that week. And you opened with Kanye.
Yeah, that's right.
And I remember when I met you, I was like, were you just at MSG?
Yeah, exactly. I remember that. And I know we've reminisced on that conversation.
Yeah.
Because so meanwhile, on my path, you know, I first got established in the DJ world as, you know, the DJ champion when I was a teenager, DMC world champion, and I won a couple other things. So from 97 to 2000, I won like 5 world titles, and that put my name out there. And that was sort of chapter 1 of my career. And chapter 2 was when I started touring with Kanye, which was in 2004, so a little bit after this party.
Oh.
But
the Usher thing was after this?
It was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was in like it was in summer 2004.
Oh, okay.
But then so I met you at this thing in 2003, but we must have like, I was still going back to Montreal, so I'm sure that like months later I came back to New York and we talked about doing something together. But I met Kanye, and he took me on tour, and then the first tour I did with Kanye was opening for Usher, and the New York show was MSG. And I do remember that conversation where I told you I wanted to do, you know, play at one of your parties.
This beautiful woman right here.
Yeah.
Marion. And we worked in a design job together, and she said, you got to meet this graphic designer. And that's when, you know, Dust did my first website. It was nice that I could, you know, help provide the foundation for Fool's Gold. Little did I know that I was doing that.
Yeah, of course. And then, but I started working with Dust before Fool's Gold, already from meeting him through you, because we ended up doing a few parties together, and he was always doing the flyers, and I always loved them. And in '06, yes, this is Studio B, right?
Yeah.
But this has Fool's Gold on it. This was a little later.
Okay. This was
so already in '06, I hired Dust to do a website for me.
This was when I booked you in Houston.
Yes.
Or Matt Sanzala and I did together.
Yeah. So Dust did my website, which was kind of pretty much as psychedelic as yours. And,
with Greg.
And he and I,
right?
With Greg.
Yeah.
And then he and I did a toy for Kid Robot together.
Oh, yeah.
That was also around, we started that in '06. And then meanwhile, I was getting to know Nick. We started Fool's Gold during the holiday break from '06 to '07. The Kid Robot toy ended up coming out like 2 years later, but in '06, even before Fool's Gold, Dust and I did both my website, and we started the Kid Robot toy. It's a good time to talk about that era, even with people who weren't there, like with people who are doing shit now, because there's so many seeds that were planted then that, are huge establishments now. And I think a lot of people know names of people and they know who's doing what now, but they don't know what the path was, or they don't know what was like these things we're talking about now and what led to what. That's the part that hasn't really been, that story hasn't been told. I was visiting New York a lot in like '03, '04, '05. I ended up moving to New York in the summer of '06. And during that time, I was also like in my early 20s, and I sort of like found my place, even sort of style-wise, where, there's a couple of stores I would shop at, and I started like figuring out, the brands that I liked, and that became an identity that I embraced. And, playing at parties with you, it was all connected. I mean, of course, you're retail mafia, like for you, that's obvious, but the DJ world that I came from before this wasn't tied into as much of a lifestyle thing in the same way. I came from a very purely technical and purely musical side of DJing. And by those years, around when I met you, I started being a lot more interested in the bigger picture and the aesthetics of things, and also, mixing up different genres and just kind of like shaking things up culturally in a new way. Do you know what I mean? Like I came from such a raw, pure hip hop place where everything was one way, and it didn't change for many years. And around the time that we met and I discovered your world, I was really enamored with the thought of like having fun with different things and mixing shit up. And it could mean a choice of t-shirt the same way that it could mean what records we played in our sets.
Yeah. Did you know that I was like nervous a little bit about if the DMC language would translate into one of my parties? Did I ever tell you that? I'm
sure, but that's legitimate because most DJs who come from a battle background don't really know how to play at those kinds of parties. I was experimenting with ideas on my side, and I would come and sort of try stuff out in my mixes a lot of times at your parties.
Yeah, there was a Winter Music Conference event that I booked Spank Rock for called Spider Pussy, and Dust did a flyer for me for Spider Pussy, and I will forward it to you. I sent it to Nick, and he full on put like a pornographic shot of a woman's vagina with like a spider and like this web of cum coming. I was like,
wow,
I have sponsors. That was the only time that I was pushed back, really. And I was like,
yeah,
you do this in a more abstract way. And
yeah,
he did, because there was no way that was happening. So did you meet anyone at my events, or through me that
sure.
changed your trajectory?
Well, yeah, I mean, as we were saying, Dust and Nick, even I think I met Nick a few times around the same time, but uh, got to know each other when we played for you. So yeah, Dust and Nick are definitely the biggest examples. I think there's a ton of people that I met through your parties, just people in the New York scene, um, whether it be anyone that was connected to retail mafia, basically. Look at Adam, yeah. Um, and even like the sort of like the King Solomon types and that Aaron, any one of those that I met through your parties.
This was
That's cute.
before Dust's birthday, I believe, before
Okay.
way. Because this was my like Monday night dinner spot called The Ear.
Hmm.
It's across the
Because then I
street.
DJ.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. And then I DJ Dust's party.
yeah, you did. I actually don't have that.
And I remember Dust told me, he said, you can play whatever you want as long as you play MFSB Love is the Message and Smith & Wesson Hallucination. He said, as long as you play those two songs, play whatever you want the rest of the night. And I thought about that literally this week because I listened to that Smith & Wesson album this week. And when I saw the title Hallucination, I thought of this thing from Dust, and I was like, man, even to this day, those two songs, that's such a dope choice. Like his taste still stands,
This was, I believe,
Ah,
Cuddy's first or second show.
yeah. Nick always says that he remembers we had just received the pressing of Cuddy's 12-inch, and he remembers bringing Cuddy his single at that party, and Cuddy flipping out, like Cuddy being like, "Oh shit, that's my record. It exists. It's in my hands," and like like the validation, like the joy of that's one of the joys that when you have a record label. Because on the flip side, a lot of artists can be a handful and sometimes it's a thankless job. But when you see the joy of someone like Cuddy getting his first records in his hand, it's like, this is why we do it,
Yeah. Yeah, this is me critiquing. Although
Yeah.
he later told me I have another picture of me and Cuddy. This was at Hero Ballroom. You did a tour with Dim Mak, and I hosted this event at Hero. And he told me that he had, I guess, probably in the same time, sent the original Day and Night to me through AOL Instant Messenger. And apparently I did not listen to it.
Oh, I mean, we've done more than 10 shows together because you've already pulled up.
This was Winter Music Conference in Miami.
Right.
It was insane.
Vice, like DJ Vice from LA?
Yeah. This was an incredible lineup.
Yeah.
I know. This was actually one of the rooms. I think it was separated in two rooms, but this was one of the DJ booths at the time. These parties were insane as well. Do you remember?
Wait, Calvin, hold on a second. What year is this?
I think this is 2007 or 2008.
In my experience, what came from those parties is sort of Fool's Gold and Mad Decent and that world, and something that's like, and spank rock type of music and just like hybrid shit. But like this past year, there's this whole nostalgia for the rap blog years, and there's a bunch of rap journalists who are working on like long pieces about the blog years, with this idea that like the generation of the cool kids and Drake and even Wiz and like whoever was putting out mixtapes on blogs in the mid 2000s, that was the start of everything that's happened since, in a sense, because up until then it was still the 50 Cent types, like the older guard, and so this, like the whole like last decade plus of hip-hop would also step foot in your parties in those years too.
Yes. Charlie Murphy came to Sway once.
Whoa.
I know.
That's awesome.
There was a period in like 2008 when Ashy Larry Donnell. Donnell was performing at this comedy club in the Lower East Side, and we would go before, and then the DJ that did music in between the comedic acts they would all come to the after party at Sway. And one time Charlie.
Oh, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Damn.
Crazy.
I think that's the thing with nightlife, where like at the end of the day, everyone's just looking for the cool party to go to. And you get these unexpected things, like, the other day I was just remembering that like Guy Fieri showed up at one of my gigs in Vegas, but like.
So were you ever on the holler board, splay, or the anti board?
I don't even know what the anti board is. No, I'm not even being funny. Okay, yeah. So I had a funny relationship with the holler board because I think I was a bit of a snob about message boards in those years, to be honest. So I had an account that I would go once in a while just to like, because people were sharing so much great music. So I would go and just like grab a download and say a little something. But I never really embraced the message board life. I wasn't really part of the community. I think everyone who was on there, I ended up being friends with a lot of those people because we played the same parties, and Fool's Gold was, kind of a spawn of that, and so we all built things together. But I always had, like, if anything, I would say I had one foot in, one foot out.
This was my birthday, the Monday afterwards.
And you booked me to host it, and I've never been asked to host. I remember being like, what does that mean? What do I do? I'm just so like hip hop that to me hosting means like being good on the mic and being like, yo, ladies in the house say ow. And like, I don't know how to do that shit.
So do you have the wildest night you can remember from this era? Doesn't necessarily have to be with me.
When we were in San Francisco for our party, and I think we all crashed at someone's house or something.
Yeah, well, I found the email. I sent it to Nick. It was
okay.
Mariam booked it through Verbo, which I didn't even know was around back then.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Vacation rental by owner, and she booked this
house
for like very cheap that Eric paid for.
So I just remember that day you were really sad because Naeem booked a party or booked something without going through you. And you felt that you had helped get him to that point, and that now he was going and like making money and like not including you and stuff. Yeah, so I remember being like, oh, it was like growing pains.
Yeah, really was. I mean, ultimately, like I want all of us to be,
Of course, no, yeah, but it's also normal to feel like if you like I was mentioning earlier about having a label, like there's a side of this that could be thankless sometimes, where you help bring someone exposure and they don't owe you anything back necessarily, but you do kind of hope that they'll include you in other things. And that's even as a DJ, I encounter that too.
I also feel like, I come off like aggressive, assertive. I put on, I do my thing, but like I'm very sensitive.
Yeah, sure. Of course. And you're incredibly loyal. You're one of the most loyal people I've ever met.
And I feel like I was trying to inject so much fun into New York because 9/11 had happened, and meeting, Justine was really the conduit or the spark that set me off, because she was my roommate for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was like working at Spa, at Life, at Tiswas, at Don Hills. She had all these like weekly gigs, and then she did Motherfucker on the holidays, which was like new wave punk rock electro party.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a sub promoter for her. That's how I started.
Okay.
And she was also working with Dave Pianka in Philly while he was doing a party called Making Time. And so like when they would book the Hives or the Yeah Yeah Yeahs or Andrew WK, she would do it on a Friday, he would do it on a Saturday. And so sometimes I would go to Philly for those gigs. And then I had graduated from Pratt, and I was looking for design jobs just anywhere. And I took this design job in Philly, and I was commuting to Philly from Brooklyn, like 2 days a week, which was hellacious.
Wow.
And because I knew Dave P, I said,
Mhm.
you know, if I know him, I can make friends anywhere. Like,
Yep.
you know, so I moved to Philly, and I was hired full time, but I only ultimately ended up living there for 10 months. But while I was there, you know, brought that Philly crew then back to New York and just covered everything in gasoline, set it on fire.
You made me feel welcome in the whole new family. You know, like even though I was playing at the fucking Garden, like that, I was more excited to be around people who are doing really creative and new things, you know? So I remember just telling you, like, pay me a couple $100, pay me whatever you want, because I was just psyched to get a chance to participate in something that just felt like it would have a future. And by the way, I think that was the right bet to make. That was the right approach, because a lot of scratch DJs that I know from my early years haven't been able to progress to different scenes. But there was something that felt really forward thinking and fun and you know, explosive about the scene that you were in. And you really welcomed me in there. And I made friendships that, in business partnerships, both friendships and partnerships that are like, that stayed for a lifetime. Like a lot of my, yeah, there we go. Truly, like, my adult friendships come from that era. Thank you for everything.
Oh, you. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye, sweetheart.
Bye.
Thanks for hopping by. This is Roxy's Tales. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and stalk. Hey girl, hey.